You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. For previous episodes, visit thinkingcountry.com or find the podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud by searching for Meet the Farmers.
So how did you get into the contract with Avon Coal?
A long time ago, when I was still at uni, so I wasn't really that involved with the farm at the time. We were growing for a local wholesaler, Organic Farm Foods, and they had a big warehouse at a neighbouring farm just up from here. And there were some other like box schemes, like Flights Organic. Gone organic when we had the dairy, and that was the initial thing because it was back in like 2000, 2001, so early turn of the century, where there was a lot of incentive to go organic. And then we thought, right, well, we've done the dairy, we need to think of something else to do. So started with broccoli.
Okay.
And we were doing a lot of broccoli. And they were taking it up there, and then for one reason or another, one of Avon Coal's suppliers let them down on some broccoli, and they said, can you supply them? So we did that. We have tried everything. So we've done the broccoli, purple sprouting broccoli, we've got the kale, we've got the different types of cabbages, spring onions, carrots, sweet corn,
wow,
fennel, broad beans, French beans, and we've given it all a try, and we've sort of whittled it pretty much down to cabbages, kale and lettuce.
Yeah.
And that's
what works.
That's what grows on our farm. Let's jump out and have a look.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to episode 53 of Meet the Farmers. And big thanks again to the Mercer Charitable Foundation for supporting this episode. We're now to stop 6 on my latest podcast road trip, and I've stayed in Herefordshire for this one, but I moved from Ross and White to Leominster to visit veg grower extraordinaire and Instagram sensation Ben Andrews. Ben, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. I wouldn't say I'm a veg grower extrauraordinaire, but winging it like most people, but yeah, good to see you.
So you're a tenant farmer, growing on about 600 acres of organic land. Tell me a bit about the business and your main enterprises.
Yeah, so I'm in farming partnership with my father. The family's been here on this farm since the mid-30s, and we haven't moved that far in the last 400 years. I think we've gone about 30 miles on both sides of the family. The odd person branches out to do something else, but there's been a core of farmers stretching all the way back. Core enterprises, we changed quite considerably over, even in my lifetime. So we've gone from growing a lot of potatoes to having dairy, and always had some beef. And now we seem to have settled into quite a comfortable setup of cereal crops, oats, wheat, barley, the organic veg, so brassicas, kale, cabbage, and lettuce, salad crops. Then buying in stores as well. We did have a small suckler herd, but we found that, my dad prefers buying in the stores. I'd prefer to go down the suckler route. So maybe when I'm on my own doing it, I'll get to make my own
family
decisions.
politics.
Yeah. Everyone's got it.
Did you always want to be a farmer?
No, I don't think I did. I don't seem to remember. I think like all kids, I think all boys have this obsession with tractors at some point from about the age of 2 to 5 or something, and then it turns into dinosaurs or something else. Yeah. And I remember having my Britain's toys and toy tractors, and that was about the extent of it. I worked on the potato grader when I having to stand on a milk crate, and I used to have great fun doing that. But I'm not sure whether Dad wasn't that keen on the idea of me being a farmer, but was never particularly keen on showing me the ropes. So if I was taken off in the Land Rover somewhere to go and see a field of potatoes, he'd jump out and go and look at them and sort of leave me strapped into the seat. So I never really got got that into it. And at school, for some reason, my year at school, right the way through, there were no other farmers, or very few farmers. So like one or two, and sort of everyone else's parents seemed to be in like managers of this and that, and so you didn't really socialise with that many farmers. So it wasn't probably until, I think it's one of a case of you don't know what you've got till it's gone, sort of thing. And although I went to university to study agriculture,
in Edinburgh.
Yeah, in Edinburgh. I very much did that with the idea that maybe I could be a vet, maybe go and do that first. Okay. It wasn't like massively academic, but I thought maybe I could go in, do an animal science degree or something, and then do a degree after that to become a vet. But it was during that I thought, actually, I'm not so keen on the heavy science side of things with the animals, the deep biology and how birds fly and all this stuff that we got taught. And so I converted to a straight agriculture course. And it's fair to say I probably wasted my entire time at university. That's
nothing new.
Life skills.
Exactly.
So I did a lot of rowing. So I rowed my way through uni, and I think the same week that the station had to be in, we had like the Edinburgh Glasgow boat race, and I just had to weigh up what I thought was like a greater priority. So yeah, just sort of ended up just scraping through with the 2-2, and then came back home. But at that point, we had a little business making with 3 other dairy farmers, processing milk for yogurts and cheesecake and cheese and things like that. So I worked on the production side of that for about a year, 18 months, and it was, although I'd really fallen back in love with Herefordshire, I had this thought of, I'm in my early 20s. I don't, if I'm going to live here for the rest of my life, I feel I need to go and just do something else quickly. So went to London, as a lot of people do.
Do the London thing.
Yeah, do like PR marketing stuff, and then just about 18 months of living in London is about all it takes to just make you realise, why the hell do people do this? Because it's just so many people. It's just like the noise
all the time.
It's constant background noise. So that's where I met my husband to be, well, he was then John Stevenson, and he'd been in London being a medic for 10 years, so he'd just about had enough. So we made the decision to pack it in and head back to the hills.
Yeah, on the veg side, what do you think your main challenges are moving forward?
The only thing I think we really have an issue with is weeds.
Yeah.
And weed control. Because we are on fairly loamy soil, it does retain a bit of the moisture, more so than some of the sandier veg growing counties. So if it does rain, then you can't get on the field for a fair bit of time. So that warm, wet weather just allows the weeds to just take over.
Yeah.
And then they get to a certain point where the mechanical weed control is unfeasible, and then you have to pull them by hand. Sometimes you just have to, with a lettuce crop, you just have to say, that's it, and we just can't get at it. On the Labour side of things, to bring up the Brexit word.
Yeah,
here we go. Here we go.
Let's go have an episode without it.
It hasn't been such an issue for us because we do. We have quite a lot of local staff. We aren't a massive grower, so we don't have 2,000. Next door, we've got one of the biggest fruit farms in the country, growing strawberries, S&A Davis, and they have thousands of seasonal workers coming in every year. Now, for them, I imagine it being a problem, but during the winter months, like, I'll do 90% of the picking myself, and we have someone else who can help, like, part-time, but it's not, we always manage to get by on it.
Tell me about Instagram and how you first got into it.
Yeah, I think it started. I've been on it for several years, just posting random. It's like, oh, there's a picture of a dog, and there's a picture of this and that, and it was just very just shallow. Here's a nice picture, and a hashtag to go with it. And then there was, I can't remember what the exact catalyst was, but it was to do with food production and the public disconnect from food production, and feeling the need to try and balance some of the arguments in the media that are against farming, and just show people where food comes from. And I know my farm isn't necessarily representative of all farms in the country. I know we do a bit of everything, but it's very different to a Welsh Hill farm, and it's completely different to a farm down from where you are.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can only tell the story of what you're
doing. Exactly, and you just you do your thing, and it's amazing sort of going around, and you see everyone, and you help to give a lot of people a voice. From this wide range of farm enterprises, which is
trying to.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, and again, it just, like, my voice is just adds to all the different voices on Instagram, and there are a lot, aren't there? I mean, I'm amazed at how many people there are, and I think it is one of the most social media is one of the most valuable tools we have.
Yeah.
For giving this, telling farming as it is, and how it all goes on.
Let's talk about AgRespect.
Yep.
How does AgRespect come about?
So it came about. My friend Matt Naylor, he's Mr. Farming.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. He's chair of the Oxford Farming
Check out
Conference.
his Meet the Farmers episode.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed doing that.
He's brilliant. He's very clever. He's very funny. And he gave me a call one day, and he was with Ben Firth, another farmer from over Lincolnshire, and just seen this episode on Country File about gay farmers, about how the level of depression in the countryside, and how it's being a gay farmer is always followed up with, or as if they haven't got enough to worry about. So it was really a way of countering that impression, and saying, actually, we're here, and we're sort of, being happy and living life and farming and just getting on with stuff. We try. We don't think about that every day. I'm too busy worrying about what the weather's doing, whether I'm going to get my lettuce picked, doing cattle movements on the computer, getting the VAT return done. So what we thought we'd do was to try and get together as many voices as possible from all over the country, and then sort of spread around the world. Get people to write to us, tell us their stories, their experiences, and that there is this common theme of sorry, it's just got a little dog sat at the table, just having a little wine.
This is completely normal.
Yeah, I know. Like, how many farms have you been to without a dog? Seriously, the needy little dog. Yes, Barnes, good boy. The stories always seem to follow a similar arc, where you've got someone who grows up feeling a little bit different. They feel that they might want to be a farmer, but they don't feel that farming is necessarily wanting them, and going through the inner turmoil, then coming out, and then realising that actually the scariest thing was making that jump to coming out, and that actually so much of living a much fuller life, having got that weight off my shoulders, and that is the common theme that runs through pretty much all of the stories.
And do you speak to say people who come out in an urban setting in London or Bristol or Birmingham or Manchester? Is that experience fundamentally different from being in the countryside, or is it still the same?
I don't think it's. I think there's always that, and there are some people who have phenomenally progressive parents who will discuss it from the minute they're conscious, but I think one of the differences is if you are in a farming community and you want to be a farmer, like you're a you've been a farmer for generations. You work with your family in a community that and you have to decide make that decision. Do I fit into this community? Because sometimes they feel it's easier to move to somewhere where they can move into a community they know is more accepting. So if you've got a lot of people have said to me, non-farmers on Instagram who were born in the country, said, I felt I had to move, so I moved to London, or I moved to Manchester, or I moved to Leeds, so I could be myself. And I find that's quite sad, because that doesn't help the situation in the country. So rural areas, it's. I guess we kind of want to be role models for people to say you don't have to move away. There's a life that you can have here. There are. I'm not saying there's not homophobia. There is. There's that. I've experienced it. I'm sure everyone's had some. Whether it's that like rather casual stuff, which pretty much runs off my back. But I know that there are some people who find it more offensive, up to the really hateful stuff. But it gets better, and you just learn to deal with it, and then you with a united front, you've got something to say. Actually, it's not cool to say that anymore. And then some people get really defensive, saying, well, you can't tell us that we can't say that, and it's when you sort of, there's a little phrase, I can't remember where I got it from, but it's quoted. It's like something like, equality to the privileged feels like discrimination. So as soon as someone's ideas are challenged, then they feel like, whoa, you're targeting me, you're victimising me. It's like, well, no, I'm not. We just like say, there's enough. I'm not saying I want a bit of your pie. And I think it's working. We've had people messaging us saying that they've come out as a result of the work that we've been doing, and it's great to hear, because I honestly thought we were past that. Yeah. I thought we were now in. I thought that my generation was the last people to have to worry about coming out. I thought that all kids came out at age like 8 or something. But no, there are still people in their 20s, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, who are saying, I'm struggling. And there's Jack Keith Innocent, who runs Gay Farmer Helpline, and he is a phenomenal guy and has helped a lot of people get through that.
Yeah. And I suppose it's like anything, it's when you create a network. A network is strength, and a network is support, and a network is making you feel not alone, really, and it's not isolated. And
with the AgRespect thing, when we did the Brighton Pride March, it was incredible to be there, stood there with people, having a chat, having a drink, and you'd be talking about farming at the same time as we'd be talking about sort of like, gay issues that we were finding in wherever we were living, just the standard thing about relationships, that I'd never been able to have that joined up conversation before. I had farmers that I knew, but you could never talk about relationship stuff with them. And then you'd have, your gay friends who didn't have a clue about farming.
Yep.
To have that conversation at the same time was one of the greatest experiences of my life, which I honestly hadn't thought I'd be missing it. But yeah, it's quite special.
When did you get married?
We got married 3 years ago, out in the garden, just out there, which was, it was brilliant. I honestly never thought...
Was it raining?
It was.
Oh, it was right.
Of course it was. Absolutely pissing down all day. So yeah, we got... I honestly never thought that would happen. Yeah. I thought we just... I thought it would probably just be in a registry office or something, but my parents have been phenomenal. Yeah. They've been so supportive. My dad cried, which I never thought I'd see happen. But yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant.
And you're about to go off to Cornwall.
Yep, off to Cornwall for a little mini break. Guilty trip away from the farm for lunch.
You mustn't feel guilty. Don't be guilty.
I'll just be worrying about it. Hopefully, I think it's going to rain. So although I'm like 2 months behind on my VAT return, so I need to get that done as well.
We're just going to do the 1 minute soapbox. Did I warn you about this or not?
No.
I didn't. Oh, I thought I got around to it. Okay, so this is all about you have 1 minute to talk about any subject at all. That could be farming or it could be non-farming. Yeah. I'm really sorry to spring it on you.
I want to do it about something worthy, but I feel I need to talk about the new Defender.
Yes! Oh, yes. This needs to happen. This is something that needs to happen. Okay, Ben Andrews, you have 1 minute on the new Land Rover Defender starting now.
Right. I have always been a massive Land Rover fan, and I've been driving Land Rovers since I could touch the pedals. And I felt a little bit betrayed when Jerry McGovern, with his little handkerchief in his pocket, came out and released what is essentially a Discovery 3 with some new wheels. It kind of goes against everything that the original Defender stood for. Although it must be, it's like the most capable four-wheel drive ever. But like the starting price for the 110 is the same as a new Discovery. Yeah. And the whole point of the Discovery was it was supposed to be a posh Defender. And now you've got these vehicles that are priced for... They're going to be sat on a car park in Chelsea or something, massively over-engineered for anything that it's actually going to be used for. And my Land Rover, I can just like change a bumper on it and just...
That's great. That's probably one of my favourites so far, actually. Ben, thanks so much for having me here. It's been really, really good to speak to you.
No worries.
And yeah, just to finish, give me if you're on the tourist board of Leominster, what should I be getting up to around here?
Leominster. I'd say one of the best things you can do in Leominster is go for a walk on one of the numerous footpaths that go across our land. Yep. Stick to the footpaths though, please.
Very good. Yep.
It's Leominster's a great town for antiques hunting. It's regularly featured on Bargain Hunt for anyone who might be in having their lunch around 12:15 to 1 o'clock. A lot of antiques houses and they've got an auction house that has a fantastic classic car sale every 6 months, I think it is. They also have the largest auction of 4x4s in the country every Tuesday.
Well,
so if you're looking for a cheap Land Rover,
head over to Leominster, head over to Herefordshire. Cheers, Ben.
Ben Andrews in Herefordshire, who was my last English stop on the road trip before crossing the border into Wales. Next time I'll be up in the hills speaking to beef and sheep farmer Emlyn Roberts. Many thanks to the Mercer Charitable Foundation who supported this and all the road trip episodes, to Tom Bland for his help with production as always, and to you for listening. You can find all previous episodes at thinkingcountry.com. You can also find episodes on iTunes, SoundCloud, eatfarmnow.com, and lots of other podcast providers. Please do subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and share this episode with somebody who you think might enjoy it. I'll look forward to you joining me next time on Meet the Farmers.